Most people fear money. They pretend they admire it, they chase it, they speak about it with hunger in their voices, but underneath, they fear it, because money exposes them. It reveals how fragile their discipline is, how empty their ambitions are, how easily they can be bent by pressure, praise, or privilege. They say money corrupts. Machiavelli would have laughed at such a childish idea. Money does not corrupt. It clarifies. It strips away the illusions people carefully build around their character. It pulls back the curtain and forces them to show who they truly are when the world finally pays attention. Money itself is not evil. Evil is a choice. Evil is a strategy. Evil is the decision to use a weapon without conscience or direction. But money is neutral, like a blade. In the hands of a coward, it becomes a decoration, polished, admired, worn like a symbol of importance. In the hands of the reckless, it becomes a toy, something to throw around for applause. But in the hands of the intelligent, it becomes leverage. It becomes architecture. It becomes a force that shapes the behavior of everyone around them, often without a single word spoken. The weak have always misunderstood this. They speak of money with envy or resentment because they only see what it buys. They never see what it influences. They look at wealth as something loud, something you show, something that demands attention. Machiavelli saw the opposite. True power is quiet. True influence doesn't announce itself. The strongest man in the room is not the one dripping in gold. It's the one who doesn't need to prove he owns any. To Machiavelli, money was never the treasure. It was the tool. The battlefield was human nature. And whoever understood that battlefield could move people like pieces on a board, guiding their desires, their fears, their ambitions. That's why he would have said this: if you treat money as a prize, you will lose it. If you treat money as a weapon, you will wield it. Because the truth is this: the moment money enters a room, the hierarchy reveals itself. You can see who is desperate. You can see who is disciplined. You can see who is owned by comfort, who is addicted to status, who is terrified of losing the life they pretend to deserve. You can see who stands firm and who bends at the slightest pressure. Money doesn't change people. It unmasks them. And the intelligent study these reactions with the patience of a strategist. They never rush. They never show their position. They understand that wealth is not the stack of coins you hold, but the gravitational pull you generate. The truly powerful do not chase money, they build structures that attract it. They create systems, alliances, dependencies. Anyone can earn, only a few can influence. This is where the weak misunderstand the intelligent. They think intelligence is about superior thinking. They believe power is built on genius or talent. But Machiavelli saw something darker, sharper, more accurate. Power comes from understanding what motivates people and being willing to use that understanding without hesitation. Money is simply the clearest channel through which that motivation flows. Look at the world today. People say they want security, but what they really want is predictability. They want to know the next month won't destroy them. They want comfort, stability, the illusion that their present state will continue. Money gives them that illusion. And because they believe in that illusion, they will guard it, protect it, submit to it. They will compromise their values, their boundaries, their integrity, just to maintain the life money allows them to have. Machiavelli knew something dangerous. If you control the conditions of someone's comfort, you control the conditions of their obedience. You never need to threaten them. You never need to raise your voice. You simply let them feel the possibility of discomfort, and the fear will do the rest. Money is not the chain. Fear of losing it is. The intelligent understand this instinctively. They don't show off. They don't brag. They don't parade their victories. Because every display is a weakness. Every boast is information for someone else to exploit. Power grows in silence. Influence grows in shadows. Wealth that is invisible becomes unassailable, untouchable, unreadable. Most people think the rich are respected. They are not. They are measured. Every time you reveal what you own, you reveal what can be targeted. Every time you display your wealth, you mark yourself with a price tag. Machiavelli understood this long before anyone. The visible wealthy attract admiration from fools and calculations from predators. Both are dangerous. That's why the intelligent keep their wealth quiet. They let their decisions speak. They let their discipline speak. They let their absence speak louder than someone else's display. Because once people cannot see the limits of your resources, they cannot predict the limits of your influence. In their uncertainty, they behave cautiously. And that is control, subtle, silent, total. Money is not evil, but it becomes dangerous when the wrong minds interpret it through fear or vanity. The weak worship wealth because they believe it gives identity. The intelligent use wealth because they know identity is built long before money arrives. Wealth amplifies the structure you already created. It does not create it for you. That's why the intelligent chase capability, not currency, strategy, not status, architecture, not applause. They understand that if every dollar you earn depends on someone else's approval, then your wealth is rented, not owned. Freedom requires building income that cannot be taken with a single decision from someone above you. And that is the truth few want to face. Power demands independence, and independence demands intelligence, not the kind taught in schools. The kind forged in silence through observation, through restraint, through the mastery of one's own desires. Money is only a weapon for those who can discipline themselves enough to wield it without becoming addicted to it. The weak want to be seen with money. The intelligent want to move with it. The weak want admiration. The intelligent want leverage. The weak want to look powerful. The intelligent want to be untouchable. Machiavelli knew this simple truth. If money controls you, you are predictable. If you control money, you become unreadable. And the unreadable are the ones who rule. People love to imagine that money operates in the open. They think wealth is something you can see, count, compare. They think the richest man in the room is the one whose watch glitters the brightest or whose name is whispered the most. But Machiavelli understood that visible wealth is nothing more than theater. The true economy, the one that rules nations, bends alliances, and shapes the fates of ordinary people, operates in the dark. It moves quietly, behind curtains, carried by those who understand that money's greatest power lies not in being displayed, but in being hidden. The weak crave recognition. They need others to see their success so they can feel it themselves. They need applause because their identity is fragile. Without witnesses, their victories feel meaningless. But the intelligent know the opposite. The moment your wealth becomes a story others can retell, you've already surrendered your advantage. You've allowed the world to map your resources, your risks, your vulnerabilities. A visible empire can be surrounded. A silent one cannot even be located. This is why the intelligent rarely rush toward fame or attention. They move with calculated ambiguity. They let others believe they are smaller than they truly are. Machiavelli understood the strategic power of being underestimated. When people think you are weak, they reveal their intentions. When they think you are strong, they conceal them. And it is always more useful to study an enemy who feels fearless. Money amplifies this principle. The intelligent use their wealth to observe, not to impress. They watch how people behave when they believe you have nothing to offer them. That is the purest measure of character. The moment people think you hold power, they reshape themselves to fit your expectations, and authenticity disappears. But when they see nothing to gain from you, their true nature leaks out quietly, carelessly, honestly. This is why those who wield money with intelligence treat relationships as data. Every request, every favor, every reaction to success or failure becomes a clue. They track who grows greedy when given opportunity, who grows bitter when denied, who grows entitled after receiving too much, and who grows loyal despite receiving nothing. Wealth is not just leverage, it is a filter. The weak filter through noise and praise, the intelligent filter through incentives and silence. Machiavelli believed that humans are creatures of comfort. Once they taste ease, they fear its absence more than they desire any new pleasure. This fear, subtle, corrosive, ever-present, guides more decisions than morality ever will. And that fear, when understood, becomes a powerful instrument. The intelligent know how to use this fear without ever appearing cruel. They don't manipulate directly. They don't threaten. They don't demand. They simply allow people to approach the edge of discomfort and observe how they behave. A delayed payment, a missed invitation, a closed door, a quiet withdrawal of attention. The mind fills in the rest. People imagine consequences greater than any that were actually imposed. Fear does the work. Panic writes the script. Obedience follows naturally. Those who don't understand this think power requires aggression, but power rarely needs to raise its voice. Power rarely needs to show its teeth. Machiavelli taught that the most effective form of influence is one that others inflict upon themselves, out of fear of losing what they believe they earned. That is why the intelligent never tie their identity to money. A man who fears losing wealth is a man who can be controlled through it. A man who does not fear loss cannot be intimidated by those who depend on it. This is the silent hierarchy the world never acknowledges. The freest person in any room is not the richest. It's the one who could lose everything and still remain himself. Everyone else lives in psychological debt, and psychological debt is the most valuable currency of all. When people owe you money, they fear consequences. When people owe you reputation, they fear disgrace. But when people owe you comfort, identity, or survival, they fear you. The intelligent do not demand this fear. They simply allow others to develop it through the natural progression of dependency. Most people build their lives on fragile foundations, jobs controlled by someone else, reputations built on the approval of others, self-worth tied to the next paycheck. When someone becomes the bridge between a person and their comfort, gratitude is temporary, dependence is permanent. Machiavelli understood that power grows not from what you provide, but from how replaceable you appear. If people believe there are many like you, they will treat you with convenience. But if people believe there is only one you, and that losing you means losing part of their identity, they will protect you, obey you, even worship you. That is the secret the weak never understand. They chase money, hoping it will give them status. But money does not create uniqueness. It reveals it. The intelligent use wealth to become indispensable, not through generosity alone, but through structure, through opportunities only they can offer, through insights only they possess, through alliances only they can form, through decisions only they can make. Power is not the throne. It is the irreplaceability that makes the throne uncontested. The weak talk about competition. The intelligent eliminate it by creating a game only they know how to play. That is the essence of silent dominance, the ability to shape an environment where every path eventually leads back to you. This is why the intelligent never teach their full system. They may share advice, but never the architecture. They may offer opportunity, but never the blueprint. They may give value, but never give autonomy. Because power is not in showing others what you know it is, in ensuring that what they know is never enough to stand without you. Machiavelli understood the seductive trap of transparency. The world praises those who share everything, but full transparency is a strategy only the powerless can afford. The moment you reveal your method, you dilute your throne. The moment you expose your structure, you create your successor. And the moment you teach someone how to function without you, you sign your own irrelevance. The intelligent never fear being misunderstood. They fear being predictable. And that is why their wealth feels infinite, not because it is vast, but because no one can see its edges. Mystery multiplies value. Ambiguity creates caution. Silence becomes armor. Money is not the weapon. The mind that wields it is. Most people believe power is built in moments of victory, when you win a negotiation, outsmart a rival, or accumulate enough wealth to force the world to notice you. But Machiavelli understood something far more unsettling. Power is not built in moments, it is built in patterns. It is not the single decisive strike that shapes destiny, but the subtle, repeated arrangements that people fail to notice until they are already trapped within them. This is why the intelligent treat money not as treasure, but as a blueprint. They do not aim to look powerful. They aim to build an environment where their absence causes more disruption than their presence. That is the architecture of control. Influence so woven into the fabric of other people's lives that removing it would collapse the structure entirely. Most of the world thinks control requires domination, but control rarely looks like force. More often, it looks like convenience. When you make someone's life easier, smoother, safer, more predictable, they will protect you without admitting why. They will guard you without understanding they are doing it. Comfort blinds more effectively than fear. And once someone associates their peace with your existence, they become an ally you never need to command. This is the difference between the ruler and the tyrant. A tyrant imposes. A ruler designs. The former uses violence. The latter uses structure. And structure, when crafted intelligently, lasts longer than fear ever will. Machiavelli understood that the greatest kingdoms were not held together by loyalty or tradition, but by incentives, economic, emotional, psychological. When people have something to gain from your stability, they become the defenders of your throne. When they have something to lose from your absence, they become its guardians. Money enables this dynamic because money touches everything: comfort, survival, status, desire. The intelligent use it like an architect uses stone strategically, silently, deliberately. They build foundations others depend on. They create networks where they are the invisible axis. And when people orbit you by necessity, you never need to force their loyalty, they force it upon themselves. The weak chase followers. The intelligent build dependencies. And dependencies are stronger than alliances. Alliances are temporary. Dependencies are instinctive. This is why the intelligent never rush to offer help. They choose their moments with surgical precision. A well-timed intervention is remembered forever. A habit of generosity is forgotten instantly. People do not remember what you give frequently. They remember what you give when they are most vulnerable. Machiavelli would say that generosity is not an act. It is a placement. It is a piece in a strategy. A stone laid in a structure that will one day support your empire. Helping someone when they expect nothing is not kindness. It is investment. It binds them to you in a way words never could. It plants a quiet seed of debt, one that grows roots so deep that even they cannot explain why they trust you, why they follow you, why they defend you. And the intelligent never call in these debts directly. They know that a debt acknowledged is a debt weakened. True obligation is the one that lives unspoken. It shapes behavior without commands. It shapes loyalty without contracts. It shapes belief without argument. This is where the weak misinterpret power. They think control requires explicit dominance. They think you must command to be obeyed, but the most powerful form of obedience is self-imposed. The intelligent guide people to conclusions they believe they reached on their own. That is the essence of silent power, influence that feels like freedom. Money accelerates this, because money aligns desire with direction. When people see you as the source of opportunities, they internalize your priorities. They begin to anticipate what pleases you, what offends you, what might shift your attention toward or away from them. They begin to edit themselves, words, ambitions, behaviors, without you ever needing to speak. That is the kind of control Machiavelli admired. Not the brute force that breaks resistance, but the architecture that removes the need for resistance altogether. Most people will never understand this because they see money as a series of transactions. They think wealth is just the aftermath of effort, but the intelligent view money as the skeleton of an ecosystem. Every dollar placed strategically becomes a beam, a wall, a support column, in a structure that makes collapse impossible. This is why they do not allow their wealth to depend on someone else's approval. They know that any structure built on rented foundations will crumble the moment someone stronger decides it should. Independence is not simply about income. It is about insulation. It is about building systems that survive silence, futures that survive scrutiny, influence that survives absence. True power is not the ability to gain wealth. It is the ability to operate without permission. This is also why the intelligent rarely explain their methods. not because they are selfish, but because transparency destroys architecture. The moment others understand how your influence works, they begin to build their own escape routes. Machiavelli knew that people do not fear the known, they fear what they cannot predict. And a power structure that cannot be predicted cannot be challenged. Mystery is not a performance, it is a shield. It is not theatrics, it is strategy. When people do not know what you truly possess, they treat everything you do possess as potentially greater. Their caution becomes your protection. Their assumptions become your advantage. This is why the intelligent do not argue. They do not boast. They do not waste time proving themselves. The moment you argue for your worth, you lower it. The moment you explain your strategy, you weaken it. Influence thrives in silence. Wealth thrives in ambiguity. Power thrives in the space between what people know and what they fear. Money is the tool that expands this space. The more quietly you use it, the more others imagine its magnitude. The less you reveal, the more they assume. And in a world driven by perception, assumption becomes reality. But the architecture of control is incomplete without one final element, the psychological distance that keeps you unreachable. People respect what they cannot fully access. They admire what remains slightly beyond their grasp. Accessibility breeds familiarity, and familiarity corrodes power. The intelligent maintain distance, not out of arrogance, but out of strategy. They understand that influence evaporates when overexposed. Money is the bridge that connects people to your world, but distance is the gate that keeps that world sacred. The weak open their doors wide, trying to prove they belong. The intelligent close theirs quietly, letting silence prove everything for them. There comes a point where the intelligent realize that money has limits, not limits of influence or scale. Those stretch as far as one's creativity, but limits of substitution. Wealth can control the world, reshape environments, alter destinies, and bind people in loyalty, fear, or dependence. But there is one battlefield where money alone cannot grant victory, the war inside oneself. Machiavelli understood this with brutal clarity. He knew that the greatest threat to a ruler was never an external enemy. It was the ruler's own mind, his impulses, his vanity, his hunger for validation. A kingdom collapses, not because of invaders, but because of cracks within the throne. And the same is true of individuals. A man who cannot rule himself cannot rule anything. Money becomes dangerous only when it amplifies a person's weaknesses. If someone is insecure, wealth magnifies their need for external approval. If someone is impulsive, wealth accelerates their destruction. If someone is undisciplined, wealth becomes a flood they cannot navigate. In this way, money is not evil. It merely exposes what was already there. This is why the intelligent treat their inner world as their first dominion. Before they build structures outside themselves, they build structure within. They master their cravings. They harden their emotions. They refine their thinking until it is sharp enough to cut through illusion. They learn to delay gratification, to observe without reacting, to act without hesitation when the moment demands it. They become sovereign within their own mind, because only then can they wield money without being consumed by it. A man who is controlled by money can never use it as a weapon. A man who controls himself can turn money into anything, shield, tool, or blade. This is where the weak fail. They believe discipline comes after wealth. The intelligent know discipline is the cost of entry. Without it, success becomes a noose. The world is littered with people who gained money faster than they gained maturity. Their wealth revealed them, overwhelmed them, and eventually destroyed them. They were not defeated by enemies, they were defeated by abundance. Machiavelli would say they were never rulers to begin with. They were merely opportunists elevated by chance. The intelligent avoid this fate by mastering detachment. They use money, but do not cling to it. They build structures, but do not become prisoners of them. They rise in power, but do not lose themselves in the rise. Their identity is anchored in values deeper than profit, and their decisions are guided by principles sharper than desire. This detachment is not indifference, it is control. It is the refusal to let anything external dictate one's internal state. People often mistake detachment for coldness, but it is the opposite. Detachment protects clarity. It allows the intelligent to see opportunities without desperation, threats without panic, and setbacks without collapse. The weak react emotionally to every shift in fortune. The intelligent remain centered because they understand a simple truth Machiavelli articulated centuries ago. Fortune favors the prepared mind, not the emotional one. Money amplifies fortune. Discipline amplifies control. This inner mastery creates an aura that others instinctively feel. People trust those who trust themselves. They follow those who move with calm certainty. They respect those who walk with a steady rhythm, untouched by chaos, unaffected by provocation. In a world where most people crumble under pressure, the one who remains unshaken becomes a natural center of gravity. This gravity is power, not the loud, theatrical power the weak imitate, but the quiet, undeniable power that shapes the world without needing to announce itself. It is the kind of power that turns money into influence, influence into structure, structure into legacy. But the intelligent also understand another truth. Wealth is temporary. Influence is temporary. Life itself is temporary. The only thing that endures is the impact one leaves behind, the systems built, the minds shaped, the movements set into motion. Machiavelli's writings have outlived kings, empires, dynasties. His ideas survived because they were not tied to moments, but to patterns, not to individuals, but to human nature itself. This is the mindset of true intelligence. Build in alignment with what does not change. People change, markets change, circumstances shift, but human nature, fear, desire, ambition, weakness remains constant. Money, when used with intelligence, becomes a way to navigate these constants. It becomes a map of human behavior, a key that opens the same doors in any era, any culture, any system of power. This is why money is not evil. Evil is a matter of intent. Money is a matter of capacity. It is a force that magnifies whatever lies inside the person who wields it. The weak fill the world with noise when they gain wealth. The intelligent fill it with structure. The wicked fill it with chaos. The wise fill it with opportunity. Money reveals choice, and choice reveals character. Machiavelli never argued that a ruler should be moral by the standards of the masses. He argued that a ruler should be ethical by the standards of reality. Reality rewards effectiveness. Reality rewards awareness. Reality rewards those who can predict consequences before they arrive. In this way, mastery over money is mastery over foresight, understanding how every action reverberates through the human psyche and the structures that govern society. The intelligent invest not only in assets, but in people, not only in profits, but in influence, not only in strategies, but in themselves. Their power does not come from what they possess, but from what they understand. They understand that the world bends not to wealth alone, but to the mind capable of wielding it. So the question is not whether money corrupts. The question is whether the person holding it is strong enough to stay uncorrupted. The weak accumulate wealth to escape fear. The intelligent accumulate wealth to weaponize clarity. The wise accumulate wealth to shape the world they will eventually leave behind. And the rare few, the true Machiavellian intellects, do all three. In the end, money does not choose the direction of one's life. It only sharpens the direction one has already chosen. The intelligent use it to carve their path with precision. The wise use it to illuminate the path for others. The powerful use it to build the architecture of empires. But the master, the one who has conquered his own mind, uses money without ever becoming used by it. That is the ultimate freedom. Not to own wealth, but to own oneself so completely that wealth becomes an extension of intention, not a replacement for identity. Money isn't evil. Money is neutral. Money is potential. And in the hands of the intelligent, it becomes the most elegant weapon the world has ever known.